Hi again, David here.
And Aisha. Congratulations.
You're just about halfway home. Step 3.
Crafting your story.
But what exactly does that mean?
Well, now that you found a conscience story to tell,
And told it for the first time.
you're ready to shape your storytelling into something that you can really be proud of.
We can do this by focusing on 3 things:
A strong beginning,
the hook,
a climax,
the moment,
and a message or moral.
the payoff.
We've been over this once before, right?
On day 1.
After we watched David and Sophie's stories of conscience.
But it's like a magic trick.
When you see it the first time,
You've got no idea how it's done.
so we're going to break it down together.
And share some secrets for success.
Let's begin by watching conscience story number 3 from Beverly.
Have you ever had an experience where you were challenged to act based on your values or struggled to do what you knew was right? I'm Beverly, and this is my conscience story for Spirit Corps. At the beginning of every school year, I talk with my students about the idea of conscience. It's that feeling inside, that voice from within guiding you about the choices that you make. Is what you are about to do right or wrong? I share how important it is to act in accordance with one's values and treat others the way you want to be treated. A few years ago, my ability to follow my conscience was tested. It was a challenge and an opportunity to stand by the lessons I teach my students. It was a Monday afternoon after school, and I had a lot of errands to run: the grocery store, the dry cleaners, and the library. But first, the post office. When I returned to my car after being inside, I noticed a Ziploc bag with a white envelope on the ground by my car door. I looked more closely. Inside that envelope was cash, lots of it. Someone had dropped this either on the way into or out of the post office. No other car was parked around, and nobody else was nearby. It would have been extremely easy for me to open my car door, get inside, and drive away, instantly hundreds of dollars richer. I thought for a minute. Dodger tickets were calling my name. How cool would it be to buy field box seats for a weekend series right behind home plate? My Netflix and Hulu accounts needed to be renewed. Put a little extra money in my pocket, and you'll find me in the local bookstore with a stack of magazines and a few books in my arms. A feeling flashed through me, coupled with a distant memory. Years ago, I was in line at a bakery, a $20 bill in hand, almost tasting the flaky croissants that I was going to purchase. Imagine my surprise and dismay when I discovered my money had slipped out of my hand. I looked down, hoping to find my 20 at my feet on the floor. No such luck. I glanced at the people in line behind me, but all I got were blank stares in return. It felt terrible knowing that someone had taken what belonged to me. I made a promise to myself at that moment that if I ever found money or other property that another person lost, I would make every effort to return the item to its owner. As I looked down at that bag of money in my hands, I remembered that promise I'd made to myself all those years ago. I let myself be guided by the voice within. I knew what I had to do. I headed back inside the post office and explained what happened to a supervisor. She thanked me for being so honest and then asked me my name. "Why do you need my name?" I asked. "Come back in a week. If the money hasn't been claimed, it's yours," she told me. I nodded, but that possibility had not even occurred to me. I had already gotten my reward. The peace I felt knowing that I had made the right choice. I did go back to the post office after work the following Monday. I was greeted by the supervisor. She thanked me again for doing the right thing, then gave me the bag of money that no one had claimed. It's true that following your conscience is its own reward, but I have to admit, spending all that cash was pretty sweet. My friends and I had a great time at Dodger Stadium, right behind home plate. Thanks for listening. I hope you will share your own conscience story and join the Spirit Core conversation. Together, we grow.
Okay, wow. Where to begin?
At the beginning, right? With the hook.
Not exactly. You can't know how to get your viewer interested
Until you know what you want them to be interested in.
Start your story crafting with the climax, the moment.
A specific point in time or event when everything becomes clear.
Or changes. In David's story,
When the light bulb goes off and I see my big life choice in this little ice cream cone.
in Sophie's story,
After she finally comes clean with her mom,
and realizes what she's lost.
her mother's trust,
So let's look again at the script for Beverly's story.
and working together, find her moment.
Here's a hint. It's somewhere on the screen now.
Please stop the video while you figure this out. Welcome back.
We'll bet you landed on one of two spots.
When Beverly actually finds that envelope of cash.
Or these lines. I remembered that promise I'd made to myself years ago.
I knew what I had to do.
We're going with option 2.
True, there would be no story to tell if Beverly hadn't found the cash in the first place.
But this is a conscience story. What Beverly did after finding it.
That was her test of conscience.
When you look back, you'll see her whole story builds to this.
And that's no accident. She's built her whole story around this.
That should be true in your story as well.
That's why we start here with the moment.
So, let's move on. The payoff is the point.
The moral, what you learned,
How you grew.
and why it's so important. For instance,
When Sophie finally realizes that doing the hard thing, telling her mom the truth,
is actually easier in the long run.
or when David learns how much joy,
$4 can actually buy.
when you spend it for the right reasons.
So please, stop our video now and find the payoff in Beverly's story.
Okay, the way we see it, Beverly's payoff has 2 parts.
First, following your conscience is its own reward.
The peace she felt, knowing she had made the right choice.
That's the message in this story. And then,
She even gets to keep the cash, a second reward for her good deed,
that hadn't even crossed her mind when she made her choice.
reminding us just how wonderful life can sometimes be.
Like we said on day 1.
The payoff is your gift to the listener.
But like many a good gift giver, think Santa. Get in and get out of there fast.
After your story is climaxed in the moment, keep the payoff short and sweet.
If you're clear about what you learned,
And why it's important, make your point.
and go.
This will leave your listener.
Thinking.
And now it's time for
The hook!
Tell us why we should be interested.
Right up front.
Why should we care?
It's a tease.
Make the audience want to know more.
Without giving it all away.
This is your promise to the listener.
That your story will be worth their time.
David, something as small as buying an ice cream cone doesn't usually change someone's life.
But once, long ago, It totally changed mine.
Wow. This has both ingredients of a great hook.
You can't quite figure it out.
But you really want to.
Or Sophie, how could a thrilling sailing trip?
Lead to a months-long crisis of conscience.
She doesn't give anything away
But there's a mystery here.
that she promises to solve.
Your listener should feel like they don't know where they're going.
But they sense somehow you're going to take them there.
So, writing the hook is pretty easy
And only possible.
once you know where the story is going, the moment.
And why it's going there. The payoff.
David knows his story climaxes when he finally decides to buy the boy that ice cream.
And I know what I learned. To walk my talk. To answer when my conscience calls.
So he teases us with an ice cream cone that changed my life.
Okay, here's the beginning of Beverly's story.
Please stop the video and find her hook. Did you land on her very first sentences?
Have you ever struggled to do what you knew was right?
Who hasn't? Following our conscience is hard for everyone.
Can you feel Beverly's promise that we will find ourselves in her story somehow?
It makes me want to see more.
Once you start paying attention, you'll begin to see hooks everywhere.
At the beginning of every Netflix episode.
Or often right at the end.
And that's why you keep watching, or shall we say, binging.
Nearly every pop song has a hook.
It makes you want to keep listening.
And promises you're gonna love it.
So here are your next steps.
Reread your first draft with your partner and find the moment.
If it's not entirely clear yet, talk it through.
And figure it out. Don't be afraid to be a little creative here.
Maybe don't remember exactly the way it happened. No problem.
Make it up.
He didn't say lie. Just use your imagination a bit if you need to.
It's a story, after all. Don't be afraid to make it a good one.
Okay. After you've each found your moment, move on to the payoff.
Talk it through. What did you learn?
And why is that important? Not just to you.
To all of us.
Then, finally, the hook.
Make it interesting.
Or mysterious.
Have fun.
With your 3 elements in place, fill in the gaps for your second draft.
Beverly does that by telling us about the time she lost that 20.
And the promise she made to herself.
Sophie describes how many times she tried to call them Marina.
And the little lies she had to keep telling her mom.
We can't feel why she's finally got to confess without that.
What details does your story need in order to set up the climax?
At some point, I have to admit to the viewer how many times I'd blown $4.
On something useless or selfish.
We have to know that.
If David was always generous, always used his money to help others.
This wouldn't have been a moment of choice for me. There'd be nothing to learn.
So, once you've filled in the details,
And gone over it a few times.
you're ready to send this draft to your coach. But wait, there's more?
You've already done a whole lot of work on this.
And now you're showing it to your first audience, your story coach,
Adults who are specially trained to give you great feedback.
Spirit Core style.
So take these notes to heart when you get them.
They'll be very supportive and honest.
Which doesn't mean you have to do everything they recommend.
But there will be something right in most everything they say.
Your job is to listen, to take their comments in.
And you'll have help from your story partner.
You'll go over the coach notes together.
And see what lands, what actually feels right to you,
Then go through the story one last time on your own.
to make it all that you want it to be.
End of phase 2.
You'll see us one more time.
In a few days.
So enjoy.
Help each other.
And don't forget to listen to that little voice in your head.
That's telling you to do your best.